And we're ready whenever you are, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's city council meeting. For those who are attending remotely, the Cameron Council Chambers is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raise hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click that button to be given your opportunity to address council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Tulley,
Here.
Counselor Selly,
Here.
Counselor Powers,
Here.
Counselor Scamperly,
Here.
Counselor Stevenson,
Here.
Counselor Tebow,
Here.
Counselor Trim,
Here.
quorum present.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask City Clerk Kathy Jock to introduce the council to the community, the city's new deputy clerk.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, this is our new Deputy City Clerk, Kelsey Dirk. She joined us on June 2nd, and my life has significantly changed in 1 week.
Good.
Yes, sir. Very pleased, very excited.
Welcome, Kelsey. We do not have any presentations tonight. We have one public hearing tonight that is regarding an ordinance to amend Chapter 209, Section 209-48, Schedule 11, entitled Parking Prohibited at All Times of the Ogdensburg Municipal Code. It is going to be Bill number 66. I will open that public hearing now. If anyone attending in person would like to speak regarding the public hearing, please come down to the podium and you will have 5 minutes to speak. If anyone attending remotely would like to speak regarding the public hearing, please use the raise hand feature in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and you will have 5 minutes to speak.
I do not see any hands raised, Mayor.
So I declare this public hearing closed. Brings us to personal appearance at this time. If anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Arlene Kaya, Family Daycare. I know you don't want to hear about this matter, but you have tried to work with the city council. Thought council would work with taxpayers, but I thought that would work, but I was wrong. This can of worms that was brought up has been a joke since the beginning. Not doing equity at all. They got the city taxpayer came up with an answer for council because who knows where they would be. So again, city taxpayers came up with the idea of net. Rent was going to be put on a list. Has council even looked at the list? Because that way you pay it yearly, the way you're billing now, not everyone is paying $165 a year. At the last meeting, you had 8 businesses, all these months, only 8 businesses, 12 daycare providers. So it should be a one-time fee under permit that would make more sense to taxpayers seeing it's not about water and sewer. So why is it being billed that way? User fee, put it under permit. Like I said before, the city doesn't have time or manpower to do this right. Just spoil what you've done over the months. City has more to do than this. When the affidavits went out, was the city attorney in on this? Because affidavits have been signed the same way we signed them, and we are paying, but not other businesses are. You're saying you can't do anything about businesses that are saying they don't have a business. Why? So yes, we have been coming to these meetings for months. Why? Because we've been encouraged. We've encouraged you by council member. You stated this is done, but was told that many wrong aspects to the issue. You guys have pointed them out to us. I'm waiting for the lawsuit for the Attorney General's office to shut it down. Have you guys complained to the New York State Office, OGS or AG? Truth, no, I said. We've been trying to work with the council because that's what we thought council members do when they're voted in. So this is not going to be put to them. So you're aware. The council did not think any home businesses should be charged extra fee because the city doesn't use meters. The city then is simply not applicable to all business. Was told to keep pressure on will continue to support this if wrong. I said AG or GS is a complaint. Council, he suggests with others. It's clear discrimination with meters not charging money for homeowners more than others. No one ever answered regularly when a council member asked for that. So let's pick and choose, but a home business is a home business, period. It doesn't matter about water or sewer making it. You're making this harder than it needs to be. It needs to be equitable to all taxpayers. I don't see where you have really addressed this problem from the beginning. City taxpayers at this point can use whatever amount of water for many reasons. So I would hope and ask council to look at this matter again, but if not, we have been encouraged to go down another road. Have a nice evening. Give this to Kathy for the minutes.
Thank you, Ed.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and fellow residents. My name is Kylie Morrow, and I operate in the home daycare. I'm here tonight to address what many in our community view as an ongoing and deeply concerning issue, the discriminatory treatment of home-based business owners in the city of Ogdensburg. At a previous meeting, the mayor acknowledged that several home business owners had come forward with concerns of being overcharged by the city. Yet, despite this recognition, the core issue persists. While minor code adjustments have been made to reduce costs, there have been no meaningful action to correct the equity issue, discriminatory fee structure, or the inconsistent and frankly arbitrary enforcement practices behind it. The truth is, the city continues to treat home-based business owners differently and unfairly compared to those who operate in a commercial setting. This is most evident in the imposition of additional fees that are not universally applied and seem to depend largely on her response to mailed affidavits, regardless of whether they were the actual recipient of the letter or not. The inconsistent process revealed through a FOIL request shows that the city not only sent letters based on assumptions, but accepted responses from individuals other than those who the letters were addressed to. That alone raises a serious question about the due process and fairness. Adding to this is flawed logic behind the justification for the extra fees, particularly regarding water usage. Ogdensburg water system is unmetered, meaning there is no objective way to determine whether a home-based business is using more water than the typical household. Yet some home-based business owners are being charged as if it were a proven fact. Take in-home licensed daycare providers, for example. These individuals may care for 3 to 16 children at a time, but at any given time, those children could be in diapers and even not use the water or sewage systems. Despite this, these providers are being treated as if they are operating large commercial facilities. Let me be clear. In-home daycare providers are not just small businesses. They are an essential service to the city of Ogdensburg. Without these providers, families will be left with fewer safe, affordable childcare options. Parents may be forced to leave the workforce, reducing household incomes and shrinking the local labor pool. Employers will struggle to fill positions when reliable childcare is unavailable. And children themselves may face fewer early learning opportunities, which are critical for their development. In other words, when you make it harder for in-home daycare providers to survive, the entire community suffers, socially, economically, and generationally. This is not just a budgeting issue. It is a fairness issue. It is a policy issue, and it's a community issue. I respectfully urge that the council take meaningful action, stop penalizing residents based on speculation, end the practice of selective enforcement, and most importantly, create a fair, transparent, and consistent framework that supports, not punishes, home-based business owners, especially those who are providing critical services like childcare. Thank you.
Thank you, Kylie. Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you will have 5 minutes. Oh, sorry. Well, I'll come back to you, Chris, okay?
The first individual is registered as Greg McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, I'm gonna call in tonight again to express my displeasure with the gates to the Diamond property being locked. There was kids down there all last week. They climb under the fence. They go in there and play anyways or do whatever it is they're doing. We say it's in the name of a liability issue. And at the same time, we say we're not enforcing the fact that the property's closed. I would say that's creating more of a liability issue because we're not enforcing it. What if something happens and one of the kids needs help, or whoever happens to be down there? Does every patrol car and every EMS or all the firemen, do they all have bolt cutters on them all the time to cut that lock and get down there? I also spoke with, I'm going to make this term up, but like the guy that organizes all these carp tournaments, he's in Portugal right now. His name's Ian something, but he's all over the country. He left a business card in my front door wondering about that. I called him. I actually talked to a cousin of mine who organizes another part of the carp tournaments. I didn't even know that. I was cool to learn that today. But there's 2 major carp tournaments coming here in July. One's in the beginning, one's at the very end of July, just before August. The Diamond National property and Shade Roller are some of the 2 best locations for that tournament that they've used in the past. First place has been won down there at one of them locations more than once. To leave that blocked off to the fishermen is discriminatory in nature. It's ridiculous. Or to anyone who wants to go down there, it's an open grass field. The city just tore down the cheese plant. That is an open grass field. Yet anyone can go on that. It's not fenced in, and it's no big deal. I just wish we could have a little bit more of an open mind when we talk about sales tax revenue, hopefully saving the city. And then we go around and take an area like this. People come from out of town to go fishing down there. The average Joe, not people who have 6 digits a year to travel the world just to go fishing and not work. Like the actual people who live in this community and work in this community. Once again, I'm asking you to all bring this up tonight and give your opinions. And if you think it's a liability, please give your reasons why you think it would be a liability, because it's been open for the last 10 years and nobody's been hurt down there. I would also like to mention, I'd like to thank Councilor Scamparelli last meeting for, and if anyone else did, for what you said kind of on behalf of the women or the child care businesses that are unhappy with the way they're being charged. I don't blame them one bit, because they're singling out a certain group because Albany has a registry website of them. That website was not intended for municipalities to do what you're doing. The whole water ordeal it's been an issue for a long time. And I think if you talk to people who were involved in the city decades ago, they thought about doing this in the early 2000s. And the reason they never went through with meters is because they were already taxing people so high here for our water that the city figured out they would actually be taking in less money. That's why meters were never put in. And going down that rabbit hole might make things even worse. When you think about it, you just need to take this charge off the daycare providers. They don't need it. The state came in and regulated everything they did years ago and ruined any lucrativeness to that business that was there before. It's just a slap in the face to all those people. And you just need to get rid of that charge. And Mayor Tooley made a mention that it costs only dollars per week for that. Well, if you guys know how to run a budget, then taking that charge away from them isn't going to affect you at all. You're hardly getting any extra money from that anyways. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Chris, would you like to come up to address council?
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all again. Many of you I've known forever. A lot of you have been volunteers for the festival, and some of you are chairman too. So we'd just like to talk a little bit about this because we've had a lot of questions being asked, I guess, in some previous council meetings. And this is information that we do not mind sharing. Actually, we share everything. So first one, I remember someone had asked what kind of a budget we were. So basically, we use what proceeds we made the year before to fund this coming year. So it's like a rolling over every year. But we've been averaging between $53,000 and $57,000 a year. Corporate sponsorships, we sell t-shirts, we sell buttons. We have some events that we charge, and we also get money from vendor fees. And we're gonna have that more discussion on that probably in another couple of weeks. We have a meeting soon and find some outlines with this, but the history of it, which Kathy said probably should let everyone know about it. So years ago, festival was part of the chamber. And so we were getting, the city would sponsor the fireworks program. It would pay for that. Well, money started getting tight. And I believe it's around Bill Nelson era. So they asked, well, how about we give you $15,000 a year as sponsorship for it? Okay. So we went that route. Then that got old for a little while. And they said, well, we got another option for it. How about during that week, we'll let you take out the permit for that whole Cedar Festival week, and that can be what you get. Okay, whatever. I mean, you tell us because we're just accepting what you can give us. So that's how it ended up. We started running the vendor. And we charge by the size of the unit being brought in. And they pay one fee, and they get to use they get to locate any function that they want to throughout the whole week. A lot of them are down there for the night of fireworks and after the parade. And they make great money. Remember this couple of old ladies from Watertown came up. They had a little outfit. They were selling milkshakes and lemonade, and charging them $50 back then. And they brought in their little unit. Within 20 minutes, they made up that $50. They left town with about $4,000 in their pocket. They were happy. My father was still alive. That little old lady kissed him right in the forehead and made him blush like a little kid. But anyways, the larger units, so they pay a lot more. Laurel's more familiar with exact costs.
I'm the one that usually handles the vendors. And, there's a few regulations for the state of New York where we work closely with the city clerk and closely with our friends with the police department, where we have to provide the information for all of the people that are going to be in the park. So we need to make sure that we don't have anybody that's on any of the lists to be around children and vulnerable adults. Everybody that we have permitted has to fill those paperwork out. We have to have their identification, we have to have their tax number so that we're sure that the tax dollars that when they're making a sale, the tax revenue comes to Ogdensburg. And for anybody that has that square units when we sell, it's GPS located, so they know that that the tax goes here. And we've been very, very fortunate. We've raised a lot of money doing that. The amount of money that we can't garner from the vendors isn't gonna pay for everything that we do, but like Chris said, our budget, I mean, I spend $10,000 at fireworks, $10,000. And I use coupons because if I book more than one event, he says you can have 10% more fireworks, or, you know, we give you 10% off, and I always say you 10% more fireworks because it's good for the community. That should be $4,000 we paid for porta potties. Okay, $3,000, over $3,000 we paid for people in the park. We had the petting zoo, we had the bounce houses, we have bands that we bring in. All the stuff is to bring people to the city.
While they're here, they not only,
Please continue.
when they're here, they not only, they buy gas, they eat at the restaurants, they, you know, any place that somebody has something to sell, they're here, you're getting good revenue. That's why we do these extra events throughout the year, because everything is more expensive. Last year, Chris spent $26,000 on the parade. Think about that number, $26,000 on the parade. But when you've got 10, 12, 15,000 people on 4th Street, what does that do to your budget? That brings in money, that brings in your revenue. I mean, one lady came up to me and she says, for God's sakes, you have to do this because I went to Price Chopper and they didn't have any forks. I'm like, then I've done my job. Then they're sold out, that's great. Everybody, you know, they sold out, so that's good. We do this to bring people to our community. We do television advertising, okay? When was the last time anybody here did television advertising for the city of Ogdensburg? That didn't cost you money. I didn't think so. I spend an average of a minimum of $1,000 to advertise each one of our events. It makes the city look, okay, I mean, it's like if you see Cape Vincent will be on the TV, you'll see Watertown, different places. We do it to try to make us enhance our, we have a beautiful community. I've lived here my whole life, been around the world. Where do I live? I live here. Where do I volunteer? I volunteer here. Where do I have my business? I have my business here. Okay? It's for the community. So we do this. So last year I had 7 people during the parade on the parade route that were not on my permit. Just random people showed up, set up, started selling stuff. I have to submit to the health department. I'm the one that does it for the festival. So my name's on the thing. Laurel gets the fine for sponsoring unpermitted people. Did I know? Hell no. Sorry, folks. There was somebody called me and said, hey, you got somebody selling lemonade on your property. And I looked at my security cameras and I'm like, oh my God. I didn't even know who the person was. Didn't have a permit, didn't have anything. They're on my property selling lemonade. And I couldn't leave the reviewing stand because I couldn't get back down the street to get them out of there. Everybody that was, you know, law enforcement was busy. So, I said something to a couple of people. I got threatened. People are slashing my tires. They're gonna beat me up, gonna break my windows. One of the windows in the shop did get broken. So we're replacing them all now. So, it's important. We do this, we volunteer. Chris and I are lifers, okay? I took over after my dad died in 1987 on the board. Chris took over. I was chairman in 91. I was chairman until Ken asked me, he says, hey, you want to bring Chris under the fold? I'm like, yeah, great. I can have a break. That didn't happen, but this is my festival person. So we're just asking for, there's an ordinance on the books, but we're supposed to have the authority to do the permitting during the Seafood Festival time. That not only ensures that the people that are vending are permitted, they're background checked by the police, Homeland, or whoever needs to be done to get people that come from far away. That the city's getting the tax revenue, and that we know who's there around our children and the vulnerable adults. I shouldn't have to fight. I shouldn't have to go and file a complaint and try to have somebody arrested. That's not me. I don't want to do that.
Basically, the main thing we're like trying to do is just invoke some clarity on what can happen, what can happen, where the rules stand, and that's all we're asking. It's pretty much, actually, it's a pretty simple thing. Like she said, you're dealing with people taking their personal business, they don't want to spend the money on the permit, and they say that the city permit takes over. Then they'll go ahead and find a friend's house that, or another business that doesn't even have anything to do with food service. Then they start selling to the public off of that. This is why I'm not going to keep investing in stuff. Well, you're on 4th Street, breaks it overnight. And number 2, technically, you're selling to the public. even though you're on private property, you're selling to anybody and their brother that's coming by. That's an offense right there. So, either way, but the other thing to look into that I'm very proud to talk about is what we do bring into the city. Year before COVID hit, we're members of the St. Lawrence County Chamber and also I love New York. And they went ahead and did an audit on us year before COVID hit. And they took in all the hotels and everything that were hooked up, camping lodges and all that, and amount of gas being sold, which was a big indicator. And they sent it back to us. And they said that we actually bring into this area an estimated of $1.3, $1.5 million for the 1 week. And it'd be something to look at, parts of control to look at, see what kind of a spike there is in the summer in that time frame in sales tax revenue, and that should show up pretty easy. Other than that, that's it. Have a good year, and I'll see you out in the streets.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lauren. Just so you know, now we've got the appropriate time for council to comment. Right, but we have an area in the agenda later, but when there's a discussion, council will have an opportunity to respond to your comments. Thank you.
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
So that brings us to correspondence. We have correspondence.
We do not.
Brings us to consent agenda. That the claims is enumerated in general fund warrant number 11-2025 in the amount of $397,721.52. And library warrant number 11-2025 in the amount of $0. And capital fund warrant number 11-2025 in the amount of $1,686. And community development fund warrant number 11-2025 in the amount of $0. And community renewal fund warrant number 11-2025 in the amount of $0 as audited, being the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
Second.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim.
Yes.
Approved.
Do not have any appointments tonight, so that brings us to items for council action. Our first item of business will be read by Public Works Director Sheila.
An ordinance amending chapter 209, section 209-48, schedule 11, parking prohibited at all times of the Oxford Municipal Code.
I'll move that. Second it. Any discussion? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers.
Yes.
Approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cross.
A resolution appointing Lachelle Dilcox as city assessor.
That,
I'll second that.
Ms. Dilcox has completed her required training. Her credentials have been sent to New York State. They've been approved. I see no reason to hold up any permanent appointment here.
questions or comments? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim,
Yes.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly.
Yes.
Approved.
Congratulations, Michelle. Our next item of business will be read by City Manager Fonda Cronis.
A resolution authorizing the issuance of a bond ordinance in the amount of $1,157,500 for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of pump stations.
I'll move that. Second.
Sure. So the two pump stations in question are part of the consent agenda from DEC. We received grant funding from EFC in the amount you see there. The additional same amount that we have in a zero interest loan. The bond ordinance is whether we do borrow or not borrow is necessary as part of the EFC finance application process.
Questions or comments?
Fonda, we should remind the public what the daily fines would be if we don't fix these pump stations.
Oh, I think the number is around 35,000 a day.
35,000 per day
Yeah.
is what I recall.
It's a big number.
Anyone else? Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Counselor Trim?
Yes.
Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Selly?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Approved.
Our next item of business will be read by Police Chief Mark Kern.
Resolution calling for a public hearing on ordinance to amend section 149 of the Ogden Municipal Code entitled Parks.
Move that.
Second that?
Yeah, this is just the resolution for the public hearing, which will be held at the next meeting. Let's do it. Is there any questions or comments at this time?
Yeah, I would like to
Please.
better understand the rationale behind this.
Sure, absolutely. So this was the brainchild of myself and DPW Director / Parks and Rec Director Shane Brown. So for both of our workforces, the Patterson Street boat launch has been a lot of work for our entities. Basically every summer, but more so this summer. The amount of littering, squealing tires, racing through the parking lot is frankly just out of hand down there. And the way the code is currently written, we don't really have a lot of teeth unless we're catching these bad actors in the act. So the first step under definitions of parks, we do interpret it already that the boat launches are part of parks, but we want to make it crystal clear that the boat launches are part of parks. So we want to first put that in definition that boat launches are part of parks. And then the second part is just given a similar language to what the municipal dock already has. So the Patterson Street boat launch and the Greenbelt boat launch, including the upper parking lot, which is actually the address is 101 Patterson Street, would be closed to vehicular traffic between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. with the exception of truck and boat trailer combination vehicles. Now, this is not anything to do with parking tickets, right? This is not section 209, which we just passed earlier today. 209 is our parking ticket section. So for example, you went out on your boat with your family, you had some friends meet you, they had a car, that's fine and dandy. You can stay there all night long. You're not going to get a parking ticket. The purpose behind this is if we have a group of people there after 9 p.m. that shouldn't be there, this gives law enforcement the authority to say, hey, this is closed for vehicular traffic, you need to go. But it allows it to stay open to those who are using the boat launch for legitimate purposes, the truck and trailer boat combination vehicles. Law enforcement always has discretion, right? So again, if you're a walleye fisherman, that's typically who launches their boat late at night. And your buddy meets you there without a trailer, we have that discretion. That's pretty self-explainable that why you're showing up to jump in a boat with someone. But it gives us the teeth to say, again, it's closed, you can leave at 9 p.m. And that's what we're looking for. The men and women at the police department can only do so much. We ask you as the legislative body to give us the tools we need, which is a law that we can actually enforce. And it gives Shane's folks the, hopefully, some relief from picking up trash every morning. They're picking up countless bags of McDonald's, cans of seems to be Twisted Teas is the way to go right now, all across that boat launch. And it's just, we all need to be spending our time doing more important work than policing litterers is literally what we're doing. So that's the premise behind this. I hope that answers your questions.
I'm sorry, but I don't see this as being enforceable anymore. You know, you're not having people be able to catch the people that are littering, or people that are catching the squealing their tires. This is,
It's very easily
One more-
enforceable. You drive by and you see them there and you can say, leave.
this is one more ordinance that affects the law-abiding citizens of the city. It takes away, you know, a parking place or whatever. Can you give me some information as to how many complaints you've had down there? How many issues you've had down there? What
Every night.
types of,
Every
what
night
types
you
of
saw it.
issues other than littering? I drove through the Greenbelt.
Every single night. And I'm pretty sure every counselor here, the city manager, we're all getting complaints down there every single night, multiple complaints. I ask you to leave this council meeting and drive down there and see all the squeal marks and skid marks through there and see it for yourself.
I totally understand that. I drove through the dock area Sunday night. The amount of litter
Yeah.
was absolutely horrendous. But closing it off at 9 o'clock hasn't stopped that from happening in that section. It's not going to stop it from happening at the boat launch. And, you know, I just don't see the need for this particular change. I may be totally wrong, but if somebody convinces me otherwise, we're going to have the same thing they did when they chased the kids out of the parking lot behind the mall. They just went somewhere else. So you're going to move them from one place to another, and you're going to be back asking us to close off the parking lot behind the mall at 9 o'clock.
You're quite right. We probably are going to move them to another location, but I also worry about the city's liability. If we don't post it and say you're not welcome here, we're providing them a location to conduct this business at this point.
I would much rather see eliminate the homeless camp that was there all last summer. That makes more sense to me than changing the parking regulations. And the ordinance says it does not exclude if 2 or 3 people go down there, take off in one boat and trailer and 3 cars, your ordinance says that car is not legally there. So you're going to show discretion and not ticket the guy because you think he's out fishing. It just doesn't make sense to me.
That's
I'm
exactly
sorry.
what I just said, Mr. Sully. That we have discretion.
If I could just jump in for a second, there is no perfect solution to this situation. We have manpower issues. We have, youth that are in certain circumstances out of control, and we can't police that 24 hours a day. But what we do need to do is give our team the teeth and the authority that they need to be able to react. There's just no, like I said, there's no perfect solution to this. So we have to do this incrementally. And if they leave one spot and go to another, we'll address that. But I'm at a loss, and the management team is at a loss to be able to come up with the perfect change to the ordinance that fixes this problem. And if we want to extend it to the homeless folks, that's an even bigger problem and a more slippery slope to be able to address. That brings in, federal issues, state issues, as well as the local. And I would encourage, despite the fact that this is not perfect, it is certainly a step in the right direction to give the police force some enforcement means to be able to combat this situation. I took 4 phone calls myself last week regarding noise complaints, and that's just me. I can't imagine how many council got, and hopefully some folks were forwarded in my direction so that I could get the gravity of something. If I get 4 phone calls about one issue, that's a big deal, because usually I get onesies and maybe twosies, but to get 4 phone calls in a matter of 3 days, that tells me that there's an issue down there. And I have driven down there and I have seen it, and it is out of control and needs to be put in control. And again, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly a step in the direction of giving the team the enforcement authority that they need to have.
The issue of noise and unsafe driving isn't limited to there. The complaints I'm getting are about Washington Street, Morris Street. Heck, even in front of my own house, some guy comes up my street at least twice a day on a motorcycle. It vibrates stuff off the shelves in my house. I'm sorry, but this ordinance is not going to solve anything. It's just putting one more law on the books. And I don't see where it changes any tools for the police department. They're perfectly within their rights. They get to complain about noise. What's the difference? You go down there, the cars that they're going to be enforcing this against are sitting there not making noise. They happen to be driving through it or parked.
Exactly. So when we drive through right now, Mr. Sully, if they're not making noise, my folks have no reason to send them on their way. Someone can call and say they're making noise and they're doing everything that they're complaining about, squealing tires, littering and everything else. But if they're not doing anything when these police officers drive by, we have no reason to ask them to leave. And that's why I'm asking this council to pass this law so we have the ability, once it
Again, if you do not catch them in the act of doing something, there's already laws on the books about squealing tires, making
sure
noise,
is.
littering.
But our road patrol used to be 21 officers and
You're
now it's
gonna,
10.
you're gonna drive by, you're gonna see a car that's doing absolutely nothing, and you're gonna show discretion and not do anything about it. You know, if the guy takes off squealing his tires, guess what? You've caught him doing something illegal already. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna give him a ticket for unnecessary noise, squealing your tires, and give him a ticket for being in the green belt? It does not make sense to me. It's anti-citizen, I'm sorry.
So with all due respect, Counselor Silly, I am in favor of having the public hearing. Our police officers are so shorthanded. Our Parks and Rec department are so shorthanded, as are all our city staff. And if this is a tool that might help, I think we at least should have the public hearing about this so we can hear from the citizens if they're concerned. Perhaps they're happy to have the boat and the trailer as far as evidence that they're out, or the trailer there, that they're out fishing. So that would take care of, the odd times that people that are fishing enthusiasts would be leaving. But I do understand the problem. They have to see them squealing the tires. If they're able to get a complaint, go down and see cars there, they can enforce and say, we're closing the park. It's supposed to be closed at 9. Everybody needs to leave. And that just clarifies this. So I'm interested in the public hearing. At this point, I am speaking in favor of it, but I want to hear from the public hearing, and I would love to hear from the citizens what their thoughts are.
I agree. I think if our police officers are asking for a tool to help them do their jobs, and we don't have a more comprehensive, or maybe you're right, we're moving more comprehensive approach. But we don't have that right now, and if that was happening, let's give them what they're asking for so that we can still be, less trash, whatever it is that we have to deal with, and then leave them off.
So, I understand your point, Storm. And I wish we could codify it a little bit better. I do support the public hearing so we can hear more. I'd like to point out that there's other laws on the books that seem completely ridiculous, but the police don't enforce them because they use their discretion. And just to name a couple, there's one that says you cannot put any liquid onto the highways, right? So that's like telling somebody you can't wash your car. Well, I washed my car in my truck this week.
Our city code still says expectorant in a public place. That means spitting. It goes back to the 1800s, right? You're supposed to spit in a spittoon.
So you have to rely on the police for some sort of discretion. Another one, children are not supposed to play in the road. And I don't know if you're on the force when a lady by the name of
I know her name. I'm not
Priscilla.
going to say it in the public hearing. I'm well aware.
And she used to call and complain the kids were playing basketball. Well, it's better than doing drugs or something, right? But I understand why it had to be there, because if the kids were out of control doing something, now the police have some teeth that they can do it. They don't go around telling kids, hey, get off the street, you're playing basketball. What are you doing? And, instead they use their discretion. I see this law as something like this.
Correct.
That we want a good, wholesome, vibrant community, and let's do what we can to get rid of the trouble aspects of it. So I'm interested in the public hearing and see where it goes, and I definitely respectfully see your points. Absolutely. So.
Anything else? For me, I support the public hearing, and I'll reserve comment until we have that here.
Same.
That, Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Trim?
Yes.
Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Sully?
No.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Approved.
Our next item of business will be read by City Controller Angela Gray.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a resolution authorizing the city comptroller to enter into an agreement for merchant card services.
Move that. Second. Would you like the description?
Yes, we currently do allow online credit card payments only for the payment of water and sewer and also taxes. We have other areas that, for convenience of the taxpayer, we would like to offer, being the police department, the clerk's office, recreation. And so we're looking to go into new contract with a vendor to allow usage of credit cards outside of just our water, sewer, and taxes.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm fully in favor of this. Should have happened 10 or 15 years ago. But I also believe that we should charge a fee for, even though I absolutely hate that practice as a person who pays stuff by credit card. The state of New York charges me $3.75 anytime I use a credit card on any of their websites or for any transactions with them. And when I go to my local sporting goods store or most anywhere else, I get nailed. Some of the local auto repair shops, I get nailed with a 3% fee for using my card rather than paying cash.
And that is
I think that should be incorporated in any policy that we have.
That is the current practice when a taxpayer uses a credit card online. Currently, there's an approximate 3% fee that gets charged back to the individual or business, and that does not become a cost of the city.
But
So
I
this will
believe
be
with the
different.
change in New York State law, as long as the difference in fees is advertised, it's permissible to do that. And I think we should be doing it. We're not financially stable enough that we should be paying that 3% credit card fee to anybody who uses it.
Certainly, it's our position that whatever the city is charged, the user of the debit or credit card would get charged the same amount.
Anyone else? I think this is a good move. Kathy, please call.
Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim.
Yes.
Approved.
Our next order of business will be read by Police Chief Mark Kern.
A resolution authorizing the police department to utilize funds from the forfeiture of criminal proceeds accounts to pay for police equipment in the amount of $7,161.38.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And again, the explanation of the weapons of use is in the resolution.
Sure.
Chief, I'm assuming that this is because more and more tactical things are going on, the revolvers or pistols or whatever they're using, and that the problem with the retention abilities of holsters.
So several years ago, actually probably about 5 years ago, when we upgraded to the Glocks, they were cutting edge, top of the line weapons, and no major manufacturer made holsters for them. So we went with an off brand called Comptac holsters at the time, and they have not survived the 5 years. They're falling apart. Companies kind of went out of business, and we actually had an issue where an officer could not get the gun out of the holster. So it is time to get away from those. Safariland, very reputable company. They've been making leather gear for probably 100 years, as well as DeSantis holsters, another leather company. We'll be going to those reputable companies, as well as Streamlight Weapon Lights and the Holson optics. We use those on all our firearms. Again, with our tight budget, instead of going to our bank, I'll go to asset forfeiture funds to buy several of those, so we have some extras on stock, because those do get damaged and break. So that's the ask.
Have you tried them?
What's that?
Have you tried it?
Tried what?
Experimented with the new holster?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have one on, we got on loan from the Watertown Police Department, and we tried that on test for a while. And actually, all our new recruits currently in the police academy, we bought part of their new gear. They've all been using the Safariland throughout their time in the academy so far, and no issues whatsoever. And the DeSantis holster is actually the one I have on right now, so no issues there.
Well, I can imagine. describing that was Barney Fife juggling his
Uh,
gun out and shoots himself in the foot, of course, with the one bullet Andy gave him, but.
yeah, that's about the last thing we need, so,
Exactly.
thank you.
I'll support this.
Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Selly,
Yes.
Counselor Powers,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson,
Yes.
Counselor Tebow,
Yes.
Counselor Trim, Mayor Tulley,
Yes.
approved.
That brings us to old businesses. Anyone have any old business this evening?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Can we get an update on the Diamond property? I got a chance to see Bob on the news last week. I got very excited that seems like it's cleaned up. We have a go.
We do not have a go.
Ah,
We're still, I've had conversations with the legal attorney to talk about the situation. There is always an out, right? The out is we go to the state legislature and ask them permission to be able to do that. Now, that's part of the state legislative process, and we do have to get them to vote yes. So there's always a fallback. What we want to do is counteract the legal opinion that right now says we cannot sell that property or lease that property. So when I had a conversation with the attorney on Friday, he basically said, no, the initial reading by your city attorney is correct. However, now it's my job to go into the different precedents that have been set one way or the other to see, where we can find, I don't want to call it the loophole, but you know what I'm saying.
that's what it is.
Well, I'm hesitant to use that word, although I just used it twice. But we have to find the justification to be able to allow us to do that. So that is in the works.
Good.
Like I said, in parallel context, we are going to be to updating and reevaluating the RFP or an RFQ. I'm not sure which direction we're going to go in. I've already had initial conversations to get that going and started so that if we do get a thumbs up, we're ready to pull the trigger on that. So I don't want there to be, all right, we have this, okay, now let's go work on that. No, it's, if we get the okay, we'll be ready to pull the trigger.
Glad gears are moving at the same time.
Trying.
Thank you very much. So my next old business, we do have carp tournaments. Greg McNamara called and wanted to know our feelings on that. Is the Diamond property going to be open at least for the carp tournaments? I know in the past they've always used that property. That's one of the reasons that we had it open before. These are very expensive tournaments. These aren't like kids on bikes with the fishing poles going down, casting off. So these people pay several $1,000s just to enter the tournament. I think some one was like $10,000 entry fee. And personally, I'd like to get the gate open again, at least for the carp tournaments. Issue these people tents or whatever they need for tent permits.
Nobody running those tournaments has approached me to talk about this issue. I don't know a lot about the details on these things, but that property is not a park, never was intended to be a park, and probably will not be a park. And given the liability situation, and I see Shane up there too, I'll let him
I don't want to
comment.
call it a park.
Yeah.
I did get a call today regarding the tournaments. Lady. Might have been Mr. Mackey's cousin, I'm sure. But in the past, I think they were able to use it because they carry their own insurance liability for the city after this. Their extra insurance, so I told her, I got an email her that use cards for her, and she's gonna give me several sites, and she's gonna be just to make sure they'll all still work for her.
Well, that's what I was gonna suggest. I knew that because they've called me in the past before. I don't know. I think there was an issue with giving them a permit to use their tents because we want homeless people pitching a tent as well and things like that. And I know we have procedures on that nonsense. It was probably an issue that didn't really need to be addressed. But this one, it does, and it is.
Yeah,
It's a
she said
revenue
the adult
charge
ones
for the
coming
city.
back. They asked them, I think she coordinated the youth one. They asked them to do the adult one now too. So like Mr. Mackey said, I said, I think the first, maybe August 1st or 2nd, like meet the kids, the adult one, I think is before the Seaway Festival. What we're thinking, especially that.
I haven't been down there in a while, but isn't there a section, like, let's call it 15 or 20 feet off of the wall into the water or off the water that is fenced in as well?
Yes.
So that area right there, that little corridor, shall we call it right now, next to the water, maybe for the carp tournament. If they have their own insurance, we can work out some sort of a deal.
I think that's, they used to take that little area and down the gate in front of that, was wide open, that's where they used to go. And I think they try to go to the right, not completely Shade Road, but on the, basically the right side of Diamond. I think there was some issue with the trees, and I don't cut the trees down at that time because of the contamination. She's asked for it, yeah, she said she does.
I don't want to cut trees down. Just think. But I think we can work that out if they have their own insurance. Perhaps the city attorney can take a look at that, and see what they've done in the past.
We'll pursue it.
Okay, good. And that's what I have for business.
To speak to that, I'm in favor of trying to open it up if somebody has a liability insurance policy. But if we want to address Mr. McNamara's concerns, it is not a park. Again, it's never been a park. If we open that gate up and just allow people to use it, we more or less said, okay, if open for public use. And there's a legal theory called attractive nuisance, which is what all of our waterfront is. It's one of our biggest liability issues with our insurance companies is what's going on. That's why we have no swimming, no anywhere off city property, which, you know, police department doesn't have enough people to enforce that, and let alone going down to Diamond trying to enforce that. If we open it up, we're just asking for something to happen. People can say all the time, I'll never sue, I'll never sue, I'll never sue, but I'm looking at lawsuits we've had here where people tripped over the crosswalk line. You know, so anytime something happens anywhere on city property, you know, that lawsuit's gonna happen and it's gonna be cost us money. We're better off. You know, I'd like to see it open for recreation also, but to protect ourselves, we're better off keeping it closed.
So just to clarify, you're not opposed to the event?
Not opposed to the event. If the event comes up and says, okay, we have a $5 million liability policy to cover anybody gets hurt on city property, I could support that. So, would support that.
We'll see what management comes up with the research and the question. Again, the research I've done, and I'm elated, I'm not an attorney, as been pointed out in the past by some. But my research indicates that if that property ever is deemed to be a park, perceived to be a park on the waterfront, that in order for us to get the possibility to sell or lease the property for development, you'd have to demonstrate that the public no longer has need for use of it as a park. So I think it's something to be very cautious about to open that up at all.
I believe New York State requires that the municipality sells parkland, they have to be able to replace it with a equally sized parcel somewhere else in the city. We don't have that. I know Elmira tried to sell a golf course. Couldn't do it. They didn't have any place to open up for public use. It was the same size.
Okay, anyone else old business?
I have an item, Your Honor. So unfortunately, we have been dealing with home businesses, water sewer rates for a year now. And the inequitable situation was brought to us. That was the catalyst for it. It isn't going away because it just seems like we're shifting who's feeling like it's inequitable. So I would like to suggest that we do a work group, a task force set up of a couple of elected officials, some members of the public, some staff members, so that all aspects of the situation are heard and considered. And perhaps we come back with this is still the best we can do, but maybe an idea comes out of that for city council action. So I just truly think that that would get the idea situation fully vetted. I can't think of any other way to do this, but it truly is inequitable. It just really is. And I don't know that any of the way we're handling it ever can make it better if we don't get a lot of minds together that could actually speak freely and bring all the ideas to the table.
I'm really glad you said that, Jen. This has been bothering me. They're right. It's a lack of logic. And it's not about the water sewer, it's really attacked on home businesses. So the thought I was having was, A, if we want to do that, city manager, right, you need revenue, but like, we want to support home businesses, and might that actually bring in more revenue than we have? And then B, is there a way to have more diversity, just, social talking, but on people who are graduating, because it really is an essential service, and primarily moms can't work without. So how can we take that into, I like your idea.
If I can make 2 comments. Number one, we're talking about $165 to a business for the year.
To some people, that's a lot of money.
To a business that receives grant dollars, if they don't want to pay the $165, just remove yourself from the New York State. Of course you can.
So I
Of
think
course it
that-
is about the $165. We went from $2,000 to $165.
We can have order, please, okay? Give you an opportunity for the public to speak to us again.
And of course, this is being done equitably and fairly. I can't imagine how anyone can throw around the word discrimination. That's a big time word that has a lot of negative connotations to it. And I take offense as a representative of the management team that anybody would use that phrase to say that we haven't, as a management team, done our very best in a situation that I inherited, oh, by the way, in trying to make this right. Council split the baby on this several times. And quite frankly, this needs to go away. The management team does not have the time to deal with this situation anymore. And I respectfully, Councilor Stevenson would disagree and urge council not to move forward on this because we just don't have time. We have significantly more pressing issues than this. And this is a time sink. It's already been a time sink and we don't have any more time to waste on this.
So in response to that, if I may,
Yes.
Your Honor, I agree that this needs to be put to bed. It's not about the $165 from what I'm hearing. It's about that I'm paying it and you're not. I'm just using that as an example. That's what it's about. It's about the enforcement of it. It's voluntary. It really is a voluntary thing because from what I'm hearing with the affidavits, if you say no, you just said no. You could be running the same business. Mike and I could be running the same business. I say no, he says yes, he has to pay the $165. That's what it's about. So I do want to put this to bed. That's why I'm suggesting that we have representatives that could speak freely, have an open work session so anybody can come in here and get this thing settled. That's what I really want, and that's why I'm suggesting.
I need to agree with you. And I think discrimination is a lovely word. I think they probably could choose a better word, less inflammatory word. But what they're saying is that it's a discernment that's being made. It's sort of a whimsical discernment.
Ooh, whimsical. I don't know about that. There is a,
Pick a better word.
well, whimsical just means that we picked it out of the air and we didn't do that. We utilized the evidence that we had.
Wrong word too, but it's like Jen was saying, it's not codified. So it's arbitrary. Thank you, John. It's arbitrary.
Well, it's not, I would respectfully disagree with that. It is not arbitrary. There's a process in place. We put a process in place. And again, to say that it's discriminatory or whimsical or arbitrary, I think is incorrect. I think that staff puts in a ton of time that it probably shouldn't, given the priorities, to be able to be as equitable as we possibly can in a situation that will never be equitable. And you know what? If we received a magic $6 million to be able to put meters in, we would still have the same complaints of a single family person with one person in the family coming in and say, well, I pay the minimum and the family of 5 over there pays the minimum. Is that arbitrary? Is that discriminatory because we draw a line on a minimum because we have to make sure that we cover our costs? I don't think so. This is never going to be 100% equitable. We've done the best that we can. It's time to move on. If council gets 4 votes to say we have to do more, obviously I respect what council does, but the management team needs to move on and deal with other situations that have become more pressing over time. Not to say this isn't an important issue. We've given it its due course in time and effort.
Anyone else that counts?
I think one more thing. I think the fact that it's about water sewer is a stumbling block for folks because we know that it's really not about that, and the human services doesn't like that inconsistency. So if we want to tax home businesses, let's just do that. But but let's not make it about water sewer because there's a disconnect in the brain when you do that.
Well, I would disagree. As I said in my statement at the last meeting, it's all about user fees for water and sewer. It's been that way since 1975. The problem is enforcement over 50 years has probably been inconsistent, right? And as I said at the last meeting, you know, when the issue was raised with me, probably a year ago, February maybe, that, you know, we've taken steps. We heard there was a concern about inequity. We brought it to management, dealt with it as council. And then because we weren't able to enforce it or oversee it as properly as we might have, we brought it back to management, again, with the change of founder coming in. Then, you know, the department heads took the time to come up with what they believe would be as fair a definition as possible, which they presented to council, which council supported in a vote of 7-0, okay, with the and then to give code enforcement a chance to start trying to make it more equitable. Those actions have started since January. So we're very early in the process. I don't support any more effort in terms of task force, whatever, any more use of management time. And you know, management may not want to hear this, but, you know, if we're at the point where we're going to be frustrated that it can't be equity enforced forever, or at least more equity enforced when we do get meters, then maybe we just jump the fee. You know, we're talking about $165 a year, but what, 11 businesses paying this?
I don't know what the exact number is. Maybe the controller knows, maybe not.
All right, we're talking peanuts on these multi-$100,000 businesses. So rather, in lieu of a task force, I would say jump the fee. But my preference is to leave things as is. Let go enforcement do their job. So let me ask the question: who is supportive of forming a task force? Jen is, Don is, anybody else? Okay, so no task force will be established.
Mayor, if I could make one last comment. If somebody suspects a business is maybe I'll say in violation of, all they need to do is report it to us. We're more than happy to investigate it. But what we can't do is kick somebody's door in. Excuse me. What we cannot do is kick somebody's door in to see if they're doing that business or not. But if somebody wants to report something, we'll do our due diligence with what the law allows us to do to determine if that is a home business that fits the definition. And we'll always do that.
So when we set the price, I fought hard to get it as low as possible. And even then I said, I don't think we should have a fee. Because without water meters, you know, it's just, I think that's where the discriminatory part comes in. Because I'm not going to use the word arbitrary, whatever, but, you know, I watered my tomatoes all week. I mean, if you got a garden, are you using more water? And, you know, and even last week when I brought it up again, I said, I'd rather see the fee just go away. When we voted on the fee, I said I'd rather not have a fee. And so rather than carry on the issue, as the mayor says, we've got 11 businesses, 20 businesses, or whatever it is, it's really peanuts, a drop in the bucket, because we've lowered the fee so much. It's not even worth our time anymore. And I agree with the mayor.
That would just remind people that as discussed by citizens and council in the past, that a flat rate system, there are implied subsidies. You know, somebody's using more than they're paying for, somebody's using less than they're paying for, but that's the nature of a flat rate system. We don't have the resources to go knock that door to door and set up a system that says, okay, you have a 4-person household, you pay this, you have a 5-person household, you pay this. I mean, you know, our resources to oversee this are limited. They're challenged, okay? And as I said last meeting, you know, management and administration, code enforcement are doing the best they can with what council has approved as the policy. Now, if council wants to make a change, that's certainly not correct.
just even outside, just outside of this very issue, the resources over the course of time, the city we're hemorrhaging resources and staff every budget session, every budget year. And as the mayor said, the code came out in 1975.
For user fees for
water and sewer.
businesses.
And, severely needed to be updated. We put our best foot forward, in my opinion, moving forward. It's not perfect. None of it's perfect. Quite frankly, you go through any of our code, none of it's perfect. But ultimately, at the end of the day, our resources they get strapped. Pretty much every 2 weeks we come into these meetings. We're dealing with extra fees and extra costs that are coming out sometimes outside of the budget. And, we're talking about bonding for our, so we're not getting fined by the DEC. So that therein lies the problem, the real problem. And it's nothing against the daycare providers or any other businesses, hairstylists, whatever the case may be. Chief Stahl did a great job and telling us, giving us the needed information for that. That set me pretty much on par here to move on. Really, and I understand the issues at hand. I truly do. But, government's not perfect, never is perfect, and we put our best foot forward.
Well, obviously, there's not support for a task force, which is fine. But I do want to just remind everyone that when we did have that unanimous vote, it was a compromise vote. There were concerns about some of the wording of the code, but it was much better than what we had. So while it was unanimous, there were concerns that were mentioned about the enforcement of it, how it was going to actually work, and we were assured of that. So I'm happy to let it go, but I don't think it's going to go away from us. I think people just want to be heard. I also want to make sure that we're not setting people up for expectations with water meters, because even with water meters, you have to set an EDU for each unit. It has to be an equivalent dwelling unit. Some will have one EDU, some will be labeled as 2 EDUs, and they will pay 2 times the amount of the water usage. There's a lot of ways that will go into it that isn't going to solve all problems. But again, I'll let it go because there seems to be only support for 2 of us to do that. I was just looking for a way to make people feel like they were heard and to look at different perspectives with it so we could say we did everything we could do. Thank you.
No, I would just, as I mentioned in the last statement 2 weeks ago, I think council has done a good job in listening to our citizens' comments and listening to each other and discussing, listening to management's thoughts on this. People may not get the answers they like, but I'd like to think that they believe they were listened to and respected. Any other discussion on this whole business? There's one. Right, any other old business?
Got wastewater treatment. I had a nice tour with Shane the other day. From what I gathered in that tour, I would highly recommend council people to do that tour, because those guys down there are diligently trying to find the solution to the neighborhood down there. And again, my mother lived there for 75 years. I believe they're doing their best. It's a new facility. We did that one smell on that one manhole, which they've got some filters they're putting in there. So I don't want to say that. I don't want to think that people aren't thinking these guys aren't doing their job, because I think with the technology that's down there, if you need to go look at that thing, because it is unbelievably technologically advanced, way more than I thought. And I think we're doing the best we can. It still has some tweaking to do, I think, but they're working hard. The guys are trying hard. Every solution, they've tried all many different things to fix that problem down there, and it's better. We got again one smell out of there, and it was very bad. But the smell you're getting, I think, is more of an earthy dirt smell than I haven't smelled what this McGaw was smelling. I didn't smell that when I was there, other than that one little shot. It was a great tour. Guys are doing, again, a great job. It's a new facility. It's going to take a little tweaking. I was very impressed with how it's run.
I'd echo your thoughts, Councilor Tebow.
Yeah.
I've done the tour numerous times, and it truly is far ahead of what we had before.
Yeah.
And they truly are putting all the resources behind trying to find a solution.
And, you know, not to belabor it, but to think that the amount of water coming into that facility and the amount of material that's left after the process, it's an amazing process that, and the water is drinkable. But yeah, it's,
Did you try it?
I would drink a cup of that right now, but no. But they're doing their best. And the little bit of stuff left over, it's just amazing how they can take gallons and gallons of sewage and turn it into potable water. It's incredible. Very impressive. That's all. Thank you, Ken.
Any other old business? Brings us new business, any new business this evening?
I have one item, Your Honor.
Yes.
As I'm sure many counselors are receiving and city staff, e-bikes are really becoming a huge problem in the city. I've had a number of calls over the weekend. One gentleman was shaking. He thought that he could have come close to really taking out a child on an e-bike because a neighbor had a trailer parked between the sidewalk and the road, which they're permitted to do, and then a car parked on the other side of that, so he was completely blocked. And with them being so silent, he never saw, heard it coming, and it said it's not the first time. And that's not the only complaint, as I'm sure many of you are experiencing as well.
Yeah, if I may. Of course. So e-bikes have been a challenge across the state. So the Governor's Traffic Safety Board has been pushing the state legislators to really clamp down on some actual laws in the vehicle and traffic law section because they kind of fit their own category for a while. Because they're more than a bicycle, they're not quite a car, right? So they're kind of their own little world. Up until just this year, you could drive a e-bike intoxicated. You can no longer do that. It's now it's an enforceable law. So they're starting to catch up. So you must follow the same rules as you would a bicycle. And for the most part, that's the same as a motor vehicle. They have to be ridden in the roadway, they have to be on the right side of the road, have to stop at stop signs. If you're riding at night, you have to have the proper light fixtures, use hand signals and all of that. We have increased our enforcement on these. We have stopped several. The state police come into the city, especially at night. They also stop them because we also find that the people we're often looking for, this is their mode of transportation. And of course, they're very easy for us to stop because they do violate so many simple vehicle and traffic laws, not stopping at stop signs, riding on the sidewalks. So we are stopping a lot of them. However, there's tons of these things, from the little electric scooters to the three-wheeled ones to the two-wheeled bicycles, that some of those are going 40 miles an hour. And there is no restrictions on the speed limits on the bikes other than they have to follow our posted speed limit. You do have the authority as a legislative body to make some more inclusive local laws. You can write a law saying they have to wear helmets. That's not a requirement under the state. You can make inclusion zones. If you want to delegate a designated downtown area, no e-bikes in a certain area, you can certainly do that. Some places that are in the state that have big tourist areas with lots of pedestrians, they do have those laws. But that's all within your authorities to do so. I can't think of place off the top of my head where we have so much pedestrian traffic in one part of the city compared to another where I would, bring something forward to the city manager thinking where it's a good idea, but, as a group, if you think something, by all means. But yeah, we can always make something more stringent. That's our right as a local government. But yeah, we are aware of it. And it's mutually beneficial besides traffic safety is public safety. It's one of my favorite quotes. We use it a lot, but we find a lot of our wanted subjects on those too. So yeah, we're stopping them as best we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
If management has any suggestions to for the next few months, please bring it forward.
Absolutely.
Anyone else new business? Right, brings us items for discussion. Does anyone have any items for discussion? See,
Have a couple, please. I've got some calls from some folks wanting more clarity on the dump weekends. That is where people bring brush, the old dump, I should say. Not sure. Is it open every weekend or every other weekend or one weekend a month?
Every other Saturday, and it starts so there you go, 2nd and 4th.
Okay. Is that advertised on the city's website? Okay. And I got suggestions, of course, to open it every weekend rather than 2. There's might be ways to do it. But it's not me. I mean, it's not in the budget. We also have, kids, college kids and high school kids that retire. It's cheaper to do it that way. Some people talked about trading time. In a rainy week, we're not using the kids. If we can put them out there an extra week. But either way, I think clarity was a big issue as well. It's on the website. That's fine. My next issue, porta potties at the boat launches. I don't know if they're in yet. I got the call last week. Is there porta potties right now at the boat launches? I haven't been in a while. Okay. Yeah. I think it's an issue we gotta find a way around. Because I'm getting complaints. I mean, people are coming off the river expecting one. They're not there. They end up doing what they're gonna do right there in the parking lot and things like that. I think we need to get a porta potty there, whether we build it down, whatever. So.
Sorry, Shane, I can't hear you over there. So sorry.
I think after the last time we had them out there, the company, didn't want to bring it back. We're going to charge us extra fees because of the, what was inside. They weren't like it was where it's supposed to be. Then some people, small boat launch, there's a small group of people that think they can just lock it, tennis lock, and use it for themselves. The small boat launch, the Disney Center is open 9 to 10 o'clock, starting in the summer soon. Get to Patterson Street, but my fear is damage we have there on a daily basis, what's going to happen to that porta potty set. We haven't had it in the last couple of years.
Some of the complaints come from some of the, I don't know if they're more local fishing tournaments, maybe the Junior Bassmasters, things like that. Especially when there's a lot of kids or a lot of people.
Maybe we could come up with an idea that they let us know the weekends are there. Maybe we could bring one in for the day or something. If you guys want us to do that.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. If at least they can
I'm not sure
call.
which boat launch they go out. They probably go out of Patrick Street.
Yeah.
Many boats do.
Using Patterson Street. And all summer long, I mean, you have these things going on, so. I'd like to somehow come up with a solution to remedy that. I'd like a porta potty there. And, to help these guys on the river coming on. We can find one solution. And then finally, go ahead.
No, it's okay, that's fine.
The Seaway Festival. Yes.
boat over 50 boats, that's the boat. Any boat over that size, if you are drinking in that boat, whether that's water, tea, beer, there's supposed to be a toilet in that boat. So the people that are complaining about needing a porta potty, I don't know, they must have multiple small boats because it is law. If you look at your boat, you have to have some sort of toilet in that boat.
I think it's bigger than 60, but,
I have a 16-foot boat, so,
Yeah.
so just wanted to, not that I'm,
I don't
just
think a
wanted
lot
to
of these
bring that
bass
up.
boats
That,
have. I mean, I don't know, I'm not gonna argue.
yeah, Coast Guard actually stopped me one time, so, and I was like, well, I'm not drinking because I thought it meant alcohol.
Are you
So,
on Canadian side?
huh?
On the Canadian side, I know they're a little bit more stringent.
No, that's leaving the boat launch here in Morrison.
Really?
Yeah. And I had a nice tea, so I had to pull my boat out, go get a toilet, and put it in my boat.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, so just so you know that.
Huh?
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Interesting. I'll check that out. The Seaway Festival Committee. It's a good time, of course, to bring that up, as the mayor said. I wasn't quite sure. First of all, I want to thank the committee for doing what they do. You guys bring possibly between 1.3 and 1.5 million to the area. And you guys do a lot of work over my last 15 years on this council. I've watched this dwindle, the city's contribution. Sorry about that. But I'm not sure what you want. Do you want the city to clarify, maybe on their website or something, to vendors that they need to go through you because you have to list them and you get fined? Is that it? By then? But I just wanted to make sure that we're aware specifically what your issue is and if we can help.
It's an ordinance that during the time of the Seaway Festival, that all venue permits are not enforced in the city, that the Seaway Festival is the one that would offer permit. You have to come to me. I'm the only one that does it. And anybody can find me pretty well 24/7. Stuck at work. If not, they come to the house.
So I got a question on that. So if somebody was a vendor, let's say I had a lemonade stand, all right, since you use that for an issue. And I have a city permit. Do I have to get another one? Would I have to get another one from
For
you?
Seaway Festival.
Okay. So is that what you're looking for, the city to clarify that to our
Yes.
vendors?
Yes.
And
Because everybody said, well, I've got a city permit so that I can do whatever I want and I can go wherever I want. And you can't do anything about it. Well, I was told that I could complain and go to the police department and say, well, they're vending without their permit and have them arrested. And according to what I read, it was like a $250 fine and maybe 15 days in jail. Not that would happen, but it meant we don't want that.
I believe that at least at one time, city permit actually stated on it that it excluded the Seaway Festival
It
time
does.
period.
It
I don't know,
does, but
I don't know if it stated they needed to seek a permit from you or not, but I remember that being included in the city permit.
it is, but it's not enforced.
So perhaps, Dan,
that's
if
my
I may,
next question.
perhaps we need to get a copy of that part of the ordinance and publicize it a little more so that people are aware of that and make sure that when they do get their permits, that it's expressly agreed that they know that they're gonna have to pay that second permit fee during that week if they plan on using any activity.
Also, in part of where you did mention just open green belt. Well, that's very big now. And the festival events, is what we'd like it to say. Because like, great, that's all the way from Walmart right down through just about.
So the current ordinance just says Greenbelt area?
Yes.
Okay.
And festival events.
If I could jump in here just a second, this sounds like an operational issue that I'm more than happy to tackle. But I have not been, no one's reached out to me with any questions or to set up a meeting. So it's hard for us to address operational issues if you're not reaching out to the CEO of the city.
And that's what my preference would be.
That's exactly what my suggestion was. Keep it funded and look at what you have right now and
Yeah.
maybe he can come up with something.
And in the meantime, I mean, like, a lot of things we do, it's also, it's not to get off subject, with high school kids. We participate heavily with high school marching programs, and these kids are getting high school credit for participating in music programs, and helps them come out, whatever. Gives them good things. So we have the Val Band, we have the Parade Program, and I'm also called a music judge. So I've traveled with different grades. And I like having it. Our fees are way out of that. Compared to what Clayton and everybody else gets. And then we are like pennies on the pound. And they have fees like also for some special events they have like this festival where they charge me for it. But Kathy went ahead and she benchmarked it and found out the exact value for it. And hopefully we can get that corrected too, so that we capital come back to the city.
I'm gonna go to the Cape Vincent Festival, and my permit is $500 for the weekend. Friday night, 2 hours, Saturday, 6 hours, Sunday, 6 hours, $500, and
We're charging $250 for the whole week.
Sounds like you guys have your work cut out. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again for all you do.
And that's the last of my, anyone else I wish to discuss? Okay, I have a couple. One Kathy, who could put that picture.
Said Mayor.
All right, what's on the screen right now is a picture of me with the mayor of Prescott, Ontario, Garrett Corey Shanker. All right. Last Friday, at his request, I traveled to Prescott to meet with the town mayor. We scheduled this meeting as an opportunity to introduce ourselves to one another, to share information about our communities, and to explore ways in which the communities might interact with one another. Mayor Shanker and I agreed that for many years, the town of Prescott and city of Ogdensburg have been great neighbors, with many of our citizens traveling across the St. Lawrence River to enjoy the hospitality each community offers. It is our goal that this great international relationship will continue even during this time of stress and the dialogue between our federal governments. I can assure our Canadian friends that they continue to be most welcome when visiting the city of Ogdensburg, whether it be to shop, dine, or visit our attractions. And by coincidence, just this morning, a couple from Prescott stopped in the mayor's office while I was there, stopped in to say hello, to tell me they own a house in the city of Ogdensburg and that they enjoy the time they spend in our city. So that was very appreciated. And likewise, I am confident that citizens of Ogdensburg will continue to be welcomed when visiting the town of Prescott. As I have stated in past media appointments, it remains my hope that talks among our federal governments will result in agreements that will benefit all our citizens and our economies. While the relationship between our federal governments appears currently strained, I strongly believe the friendship between our friends in Southern Ontario and New York's North Country will remain strong and survive this current challenge. So again, it was about an hour meeting. We had a very nice discussion. We're hoping to have some follow-up further down the road. Then I just wanted to offer a couple comments about the presentation tonight from our friends from the Seaway Festival today. I thought perhaps they might have been here in part because there were questions asked at a council meeting a few weeks ago about the cost to the city for the operation of the Seaway Festival. And a suggestion that in an effort to manage these costs or reduce these costs, that consideration might be given to reducing the length of the festival. As was stated tonight in the presentation, Chris Laura Lee, You know, the only, as far as I know, the only revenue source is the vendor permits. Not sure that the city gives any other direct dollars. But you know, we give labor support, which has some significant cost. But I would estimate that a great degree of that expense happens on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Seaway Festival weekend with the fireworks and parade. And that if we reduce the Seaway Festival, or the Seaway Festival Committee chose to reduce the Seaway Festival from a 9-day event to a 3 or 4-day event, I don't know if there's any significant impact on the directed laws that the city provides Seaway Festival. So personally, you know, I would be very reluctant to see any reduction in the time. You know, it's such an important community event. The number of visitors we get, family, friends coming back, you know, to the city. You know, the activities early in the week, which a lot of them are family friendly. You know, I mean, I now have an 8-month-old granddaughter and a 6-week-old granddaughter, and they are already working out for the diaper race when they get to 2 and 3 years old. All right, you know, those type of events bring community together. All right, watching Donnie Swan do a hypnotist show, you know, the modest amount of revenue it generates, but the entertainment and something like that, watching a local band, you know, have fun with local citizens getting on stage, or visitors coming on stage. You know, the last year's show had a few people from out of state who were hypnotized and entertained us. But in any event, there's so many different activities during the course of the week. You know, the high school battle of the bands, you know, was standing roll out at OFA. You know, and you know, certainly, you know, my first walkthrough as mayor of the parade last July, you know, you see the number of people that are there, you know, all along Ford Street. And, you know, the fireworks just seem to get more spectacular every year. Anyway, it's such an important community event. So thank you for your word. Stay the course. Right? Anybody else with item for discussion? That brings us to citizen participation. At this time, if anyone attending in person would like to address council, please come down to the podium and you will have 2 minutes.
Hello. I would like you to address some indiscrepancies that have been stated about home business owners, particularly that daycare received grants. The last grant that I received was last year, and it was to give my employees raises. And so therefore, I didn't see any of that money. I actually just got a call on Friday from the Child Care Council about how the county is losing funding for subsidized childcare. So that will be up soon, and therefore those families will either be out of care or I will be out of pay for those children until the state decides that they are going to release the funds in October and these parents are able to reapply and hopefully get accepted back into the program and therefore continue to pay for their childcare or are able to pay. Most of these families cannot pay the private funds to continue their care. There's also another program called the Workforce Development Institute that, because the state budget took so long to get passed and took so long to release their funds, those parents or those providers in those programs have not been paid since March. We're in June. It's 3 months for those kids not getting paid. So when we say that it's only $165, that is a lot of money when you're not getting paid, potentially 2 times out of the year for multiple of your families. And I want my families to have these opportunities for these fundings because they desperately need it. we're talking about an equity issue. And when we are signing affidavits or not signing and accepting it from those who it was not addressed to, that is an equity issue. Mayor Tully, you're talking about drawing community together, but we have the city manager asking us to turn each other in for businesses. That does not create a good sense of community in the city of Ogdensburg. I know that you're saying there has been a lot of time and effort put into this, but the main issue, the equity issue, is still not being addressed, especially when I did not turn in my affidavit because I was waiting for a response about whether it would violate the social service laws that daycares fall under. And therefore I fell into being charged. So if someone who was addressed to did not sign the affidavit and turn them in, but are not being charged, how is that code doing their job, and how is that everybody being treated fairly? There's still a lot up in the air. And I know that you guys don't want to spend any more issue on this. I'm almost 38 weeks pregnant. I don't want to spend any more time on this either. Might not be able to if I have this baby, but I just urge you guys to reconsider and think about the way that it's being charged. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. Now, if anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature. The city clerk will recognize and unmute one person at a time, and you will have 2 minutes.
The first individual is registered as Greg McNamara, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to call in with a rebuttal about what we had to say about the Diamond property. But first, I'd like to say that I think the approach to keep riffraff out of the boat launch parking lots at night is a 100% good idea. Anyone who's against that, you got to be brain dead. It's just simple. You know, the cops show up. If there's some scumbag there who shouldn't be there, which is everywhere in the city at night, they can tell them to get going. And yeah, they might go somewhere else, but they're not going to be down there bothering looking through trucks, trying to steal fishing lures, trailers. I've heard all kinds of bullshit that's gone on down there. The next thing. Yeah, I know, but it's protected under free speech, Julie. If you want to end it, I can sue the city. That's fine. The next thing I'm going to say, please do not interrupt me. The next thing I'm going to say is with the Diamond property. This winter, we stopped plowing the Maple City Trail per Fonda and some ordeal or idea that him and Shane came up with, and it's because you guys can't run a budget. And I'll tell you what, you just put signs down there that were wrong 2 days in a row. They were completely illiterate, whoever ordered them, and they made the city look ridiculous. We put them on United Helpers property to a known entrance to the Maple City Trail at the end of Spruce Street. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, by the United Helpers building there. That is creating a liability. However, if we can put the same sign at the Diamond property, if it's okay at the Maple City Trail to say it's enter at your own risk, why can't you do the same thing here? It's extremely hypocritical to do it there and not do the same thing here and say it's a liability once again. And I could tell the way the city manager is dealing with these women who run daycares. I can tell he's one of them my way or the highway type guys, which is fine. But I just want to explain a liability that he actually caused that took place with them signs being put in on the Maple City Trail. Somebody put them on Facebook, and the following day they were trying to drop their kids off at school, and a DPW employee got arrested for trying to assault them. Luckily, they got in their vehicle and locked the handle when they were trying to rip the handle open on their vehicle. You created a liability doing that and lessening recreation and lessening the services here. Then you turn around at my property in front of where I live, the Diamond property, and say you're not going to let anyone down here because of a liability issue. Fonda, you caused a liability issue for the city. Someone almost got beat up. Thank God they got in their vehicle and locked the doors before a city employee beat them up, and they were arrested for it. The next thing I want to talk about.
Please wrap up.
No, that's fine, but you just let another woman, if you want a lawsuit for the city, go way past her time. So don't play that game with me. And Fonda broke the rules tonight. Mr. Tooley, having interactions with somebody at the podium, which is against the rules too. Okay? And I know you don't like what I have to say and you think I'm controversial, but you're going to let me finish speaking.
Please move on.
Right. And please stop interrupting me. I would like to also talk about you acting like $165 isn't a big deal for these women to pay. You were the chief financial officer for the Diocese of Ogdensburg. You also worked for Morristown School District. I want to remind you, all the places you ran the budgets of in your career, all their money comes for free from the government. They run off of all government money, like a welfare family does.
Those are inaccurate statements and it's irrelevant to the discussion.
And what you did was you helped protect over 100 pedophilic child molesters, leading them through bankruptcy, is what you did. Yeah, end it.
I do not see any other hands raised, Mayor.
All right, we have resolutions for executive sessions tonight. I will introduce them first. Whereas City Manager Fonda Cronus requests an executive session with members of the Ogdensburg City Council to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of Civil Service Law. And whereas New York State Open Meetings Law permits City Council to adjourn to executive session for such purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that City Council adjourn to executive session to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of Civil Service Law. And be it further resolved that any action resulting from this executive session shall be taken in open session.
Second.
Second. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Counselor Trim?
Yes.
Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Silly?
Yes.
Approved.
And I will note that Fire Chief Stull, City Controller Angela Gray, and Legal Counsel Jim Romer, who is attending by Zoom, will participate in that executive session. Next, whereas City Manager Fonda Cronus requests an executive session with members of City Council to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And whereas New York State Open Meetings Law permits City Council to adjourn to executive session for such purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that City Council adjourn to executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. And be it further resolved that any action resulting from this executive session shall be taken in open session. I so move. Second. Kathy, please call the roll.
Counselor Scamperly?
Yes.
Counselor Stevenson?
Yes.
Counselor Tebow?
Yes.
Counselor Trim? Mayor Tulley?
Yes.
Counselor Silly?
Yes.
Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Approved.
And I note that Police Chief Kearns being invited to join council and Fonda in that executive session. I also note that we do not anticipate any action following executive sessions tonight. So I make a motion to adjourn from executive session. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting will be adjourned following executive session.